Hello everybody! Happy Halloween! It's time for another Patreon exclusive ramble video, and the winning topic this month was Jenny designs her dream Halloween themed dark ride. This is a good topic and actually not something I've really considered before. I mean, obviously I'm always thinking about dark rides in general, but specifically this, not so much. But it is a good question because if people aren't well versed in like the Disney parks, one of the most interesting things about the Haunted Mansion ride is that while it's not different in every single country that has a Disney park, it is in a different land in every single one, and that's because so many cultures have different approaches to ghosts and ghost stories and such. So it's one of those ideas that keeps being re-explored by Imagineers. So like some countries have clones of the Haunted Mansion, but a lot of them it's like Phantom Manor in France, which is more of like a sad ghost story, like more tragic and dark. And then in Hong Kong you have Mystic Manor, which is more of like a enchanted objects type story, like cursed objects, because they're not as really as into like ghosts haunting a place, like people haunting a place after they die. And you kind of see the same thing with the Tower of Terror in Japan, which is like the same storyline of like cursed artifacts seeking revenge rather than just human ghosts. So a part of me even wonders, like, if there is a new Imagineer, is this one of their first challenges to just be like, hey, what would you do for a haunted house attraction? All that said, though, it kind of implies I'm about to try to think outside the box, and I'm not. My favorite Halloween stuff is like the most standard, like generic public domain Halloween party kind of stuff, like the monsters you see in Goosebumps, you know, classic Monster Mash characters, your Frankensteins, your Draculas, etc. And so I think with mine, if I was going to design an attraction, first of all, I'm just assuming there's absolutely no budget constraint and I can just build the coolest thing I want to build, because why not? And in fact, that said, I'm going to take it a step farther. I've just decided that if I can design an attraction and there's no budget, why design an attraction if I could design a land? Like, how good would it be to have a scary, like, ghost-themed land? And then the centerpiece is this e-ticket attraction that's like a castle. And then you could have, like, a haunted river that's like a boat ride that goes through, like, spooky caves. But anyway, you could have like you could have people go in a separate entrance that looks like it's going into the same building as the ride, which is like a big Frankenstein-looking castle, like a Dracula castle. Did Frankenstein have like a castle? He had a lab. But you know, like the classic like haunted castle on a hill, got a scary flash of lightning in the back, like that imagery. But anyway, I was just thinking, what if people like wound down this little path like down the hill instead of going up the hill to the normal queue for the attraction, and then there's like a little side path that appears to take you into the side of the castle. It's really taking you into like a different show building, and then that could be like dinner in the castle. It's like the master of the castle has invited you, and then you could have like a fun dinner theater experience that's also part of this land and this attraction. But anyway, that's 2 tangents I've already had. Okay, so if the sky is the limit, my thinking is that I'm inspired by the recent trend of like trackless attractions. And in theory, like the way you see a lot of trackless attractions used is that they'll take you on different paths each time. Like they'll be able to build an environment and then the vehicles may spin or travel in different directions because they're not constrained to just one track layout. For me, I don't really need it to be trackless, but along that vein of like different experiences, I think it'd be really cool if you built like just the biggest spooky castle ever and you have people going on several different possible routes. So maybe when you go on your little vehicle into the front hall, you can go down like a set of stairs into the dungeon, and maybe you pass through the kitchen and there's like a spooky kitchen, you know, like eyeballs are boiling on the stove or whatever. What else do they have in spooky kitchens? I don't know. Worms. And then from there, you can go farther into the dungeon and see perhaps like some kind of monster dog or a mummy would probably hang out in a basement, I would imagine. Definitely spiders, some kind of spider lair. That could be like the focal point of this path. If you go up into the attic, I would imagine that you'd find like a vampire up there because they like to hang from the rafters. I mean, bats do. I don't know if the guys do. You would also find weird, spooky objects that would be kept in an attic, like maybe a scary ventriloquist dummy. And then there could be one path. This one would be my favorite. I just like rides where you're inside, but it simulates being outside. So I'm imagining there's a path where you go right out the back door and into like the courtyard. Maybe you travel through a greenhouse first because scary greenhouses are very cool. You could have scary man-eating plants and like weird plants with tentacles, and then you pass through the greenhouse and into like, suddenly, you know, you were probably in the castle and thinking like European countryside, but no, there are a lot of great creatures that are like very American, like very, you know, farmland. So now you go outside and you're in like a wheat field, like a big cornfield. Yeah, corn is better. It's a cornfield. And then you can see a scary scarecrow. You can pass from there into some woods where you'll see werewolves. I don't know, maybe pass a pond. No, we'll save the water creatures for the boat ride I already mentioned wanting to do. Obviously, you'd have to have some pumpkin-headed men out here. Maybe like you pass from the cornfield into like a barn. But I don't know, having them roaming in the corn is just as good. Oh, that'd be so good. Like, imagine how scared you'd be if you were in a little ride vehicle passing on this, like, narrow lane with just really thick, fake corn stalks on either side. And then that would have some option for variability, too. Like, maybe you don't see the same creatures in the same locations every time. So you could have all these animatronics like hidden in the corn, and you're just going through the corn, and on one of your sides suddenly like the corn gets pulled aside and there's a scary pumpkin-headed man or a scarecrow or like, yeah, I don't know, scary things like that. Scary hillbilly zombie, I don't know. I put the vampire in the attic earlier. I'd like to retract that because I'm thinking that would be a cool vibe for the bulk of the manor. Like if you go to the main floors, you can pass through like a ballroom, like an ornate master bedroom, and that's, I feel, where you're going to want to have all of your like ghosts, you know, your stately ghosts, your vampires, any of the creatures that seem like they've still got their act together, like that they are functioning as humans. Maybe you could have like a Jekyll and Hyde creepy character. Ooh, that would be cool, because then you could use one of those effects where like he's facing away from you and you think you're seeing his reflection in the mirror and he looks one way, and then the thing turns around and you see the actual figure which looks a different way. It's the thing they do with the evil queen in the Snow White ride. Like you see what you think is a mirror, so you see her pretty face, then the figure turns around and so does its clone through the pane of glass, and then you see the scary withered face. But I think that's the cool thing about having all the different paths, is like that would really accomplish both the feeling of like hugeness, like it is a world that you're seeing glimpses of, an impression of scale, even if these are all just packed in little hallways in the same giant warehouse. You feel like you're moving through an actual house. I think it'd be really cool if you like travel upstairs or downstairs where your vehicles are just going on a ramp, like when you fall out the attic window in the Haunted Mansion, because you feel like you're traveling through this space. But I also think it's really cool when rides have variability. And I feel like, although you might take different paths, I don't hear a lot about theme park rides where you go to a different physical environment every time, especially with the popularity of like projections and screens and like laser effects. It's more common to have a single space that is just made to look different on different rides. Like, you know, Star Tours is a simulator where you can go to different destinations. Or what else am I thinking of? Oh, the recent effect for Indiana Jones where there are 3 different paths you can go on, and it's like you can go through the Temple of Visions of the Future, Eternal Youth, or treasure, yeah, riches. You can go to seek either of those fortunes in the Indiana Jones temple, but you're really just traveling through the same room every time. They've just made it look like one of the 3 through lighting effects, and now they use lasers. And they used to have an illusion when you were driving into the temple room where there were 3 doorways in front of you, and that entire frame of that room was suspended on cables. So then it looks like your car is turning, but really the room is turning, and one of 3 doorways aligns with the real doorway. So riders would think there were 3 different tracks. It's always just been one track. You've always just been going through the same doorway. But I guess that entire frame was very heavy. So like they weren't able to keep doing that. The room doesn't turn anymore. Now it always just looks like you're going through the middle door, which is the door you've always been going through. And now they've tried to enhance that initial hallway with like laser effects. So the doorways look different every time. But that's a shame, because what a cool effect. I think as a kid, I really did think it was 3 different tracks. And I was like, oh, they're just running 3 of these at once. Not true. But yeah, that's a good early example of where it seems like you're going on different paths, but it is the same experience, the same environment every time. That said, there is a ride, I think it's in Efteling. It's like a Jester themed ride. I want to say it's called like Magica Melodica or something. It just opened like a year ago, and I heard it has 3 different options. I don't know if that is screen effects or lighting effects or whatever. I think that's a trackless ride, but I don't know if you physically go to different places. I'm aware of this ride, but I also heard it's incredible, and I would like to go to Efteling someday, so I just decided not to watch any ride-throughs of it and try not to find out anything more about it, just so if I ever do go there, it'll like be more exciting, because I heard it's a really good ride. But yeah, that one might be a ride where you can go to 3 different places and actually get a different experience every time. I think they have like the music track, the story track or something. I think it's art themed. But anyway, I don't know. I'm trying not to know. So yeah, but that's why, in my opinion, it just seems like it would be very novel to have a dark ride where you're actually going to different rooms. And obviously you don't see this happen as much because, like, why build essentially multiple full-length rides that's so prohibitively expensive when you can just build one and, like, you know, the average guest will be content with just one. But, like, I would argue that you want your rides to be re-rideable. In my Star Wars Land Part 2 video, I have a whole thing about the importance of re-rideability, re-experience ability in theme parks. Not just for people who are local, but for people to return, to want to visit again, to feel like they need to see more. I just think when I picture the best Halloween environment, I am just imagining that Horrorland like computer game. Like, they have the werewolf village area, they have the barn and like the scary cornfield, and I would just want to encapsulate like all of that stuff. So if I was making it a whole theme park land, I would want to have like that cool, like almost European medieval village, where it just, but it's like kooky and friendly. So it's like a town inhabited by monsters, and they're like public domain. Even if I like could, in this fantasy scenario, acquire the rights to make it like a Goosebumps land, I still wouldn't want to. I think it's more timeless and more fun to have things be public domain. Oh, but I want to look it up. I follow the Sally Corp YouTube channel. I think I talked about that on like YouTube channels I watch, and I mentioned that it's like definitely just a corporate thing that they send to clients. It's like their portfolio. It's not them trying to like cater to an online audience, but I like to look at it and see what they're up to. And I remember at a trade show or something a while back, they were pitching a Goosebumps ride, and I was so excited. I don't think that's moved forward. I think it was just that. I think it was a pitch. They're like, hey, if anyone wants a Goosebumps ride for like their SeaWorld or Cedar Fair or something, then we've been kicking that around. But I don't know if it was ever formally like discussed with R.L. Stine, if they talked about the money to acquire the rights, or if they were even pitching it to one particular park. I'm gonna look it up right now. Sally Corp Goosebumps. But how fun would that be? Although Sally Corp, they make wonderful animatronics. And I think if more people like wanted a bunch of animatronics, they would do incredible rides that are just full of animatronics. But unfortunately, since they're not Disney, they're usually hired out by like cheaper theme parks that want a budget ride. So usually even like the high-end Sally Corp rides you see end up being like one animatronic, and then it takes you through rooms with screens that you shoot at with like a little like infrared gun. So I imagine that even if this Goosebumps ride got made, it would end up just being like you see a slappy animatronic while you're waiting in line and you're like, that's pretty cool. And then you just, you know, shoot at stuff on a screen. So I'm looking it up right now. There's an Italian Parks Mania article from 2008. It goes to a broken page, so that's sad. I'm gonna look at the cached version of the page and just see what I find. This sounds so fun. Again, this is from 2008. I'm sure this isn't in the works anymore. There's a quote from the SallyCorp CEO saying, "The Goosebumps concept is absolutely a natural for dark rides, incorporating blacklight and 3D element." Oh, 3D. But I heard blacklight and I was like, oh, they did want to have like some physical environments, like a classic dark ride. That's another thing I didn't say for mine. I would definitely want to like lean into that classic dark ride thing and have like black lighting. I think it's really interesting when you go through the current Disneyland train, when you go through the Grand Canyon section. For those of you who haven't ridden it, at one point on its route, the Disneyland Railroad goes through a big tunnel and past a diorama with like taxidermy creatures, and they're like, now we're going through the Grand Canyon. And then after that, you pass, and he's like, now we're going back in time to the Grand Canyon in prehistoric times. And you see all these like animatronic dinosaurs. And when you first pass in, you see like a forest, and there's like big snails. There are like lurking stegosauruses. It's the first part of the prehistoric diorama. And they just recently redid all of the dioramas. Like they gave some TLC to the Grand Canyon part because a lot of the animals, like literally their legs were like breaking and they were falling over. They're so old. I heard it's disgusting in there. Apparently when they went in to repair it, the crew had to wear like hazmat suits because they just, like for the portion that's taxidermy, it's just sealed. Like no air is circulating because they're trying to keep them preserved. This is what I've heard. I don't know anything about taxidermy, but this is what cast members talk about at lunch. So anyway, they like repaired the elk whose leg had broken and was leaning on a tree, and they like repainted the backdrop. They added like they didn't repaint it, they touched it up. They added some projection effects, like a Pepper's Ghost lightning strike on a tree, which is great. And then they reskinned all the dinosaurs. And one of the best things they did is, I think for the first time, they added blacklight to the forest portion of the dinosaur thing. And they like, blacklight painted a lot of the dinosaurs so they glow. And like, it's very interesting because it's like a blend. Like you pass through blacklight and then the rest of it is lit normally. And it just turned out really good. So I think that idea of using a mixture of like incandescent and black lighting can look really cool and atmospheric. You make the things glow that you want to have glow. That'd be cool if like the eerie cornfield part was like blacklit, like you're outside, or like the dungeons are, but then have warm lighting for like the stately bed chambers and ballrooms and entrance halls and stuff. Oh man, there's a couple pieces of concept art. This is so cute. This is like a land that I think they were pitching, or maybe this was just gonna be like some cute, I don't know, concept art that you see in line, but they've drawn up their own little horror land. There's like a dragon coaster, a coaster called the Cauldron, and then a drop tower named Black Widow, which is so cute. It's got a big spider on top. And then what I assume is it's like an inn. I wonder if they intended on this to be like a ride that was called an inn, or if this would have actually been a hotel. How fun would that be to stay at like a haunted castle Goosebumps hotel? I want to add that to mine now. I mean, not Goosebumps, but like a scary horror hotel. That's such a good idea. I don't think that exists in the world, and like it should. You know what I just thought, and I got kind of excited about it? Universal Studios announced that like third theme park they're gonna build in Florida, and like that's so far out that who knows if that'll actually happen. It's a huge ambitious project. It's years and years down the line. I feel like theme parks financially have been in a couple boom years, and like every bubble eventually pops. It's cyclical. I feel like theme parks might end up suffering financial hardship at some point in the next few years, and all struggle again, and then all succeed in a big way again. Like I said, I'm not like worried about the actual possibility that they'll all close, but it does seem like it goes in cycles, and it's been smooth sailing for a while, so I don't know. So I could see this project easily getting canceled, but they did announce something called like the Epic Universe Park or something, a third Florida Universal Studios park, and the concept art was literally just like a vague overhead map, and they have not announced anything they're going to have in it yet. But I do think that, like, in the rumor mill, people were saying some of the lands, and, like, one of them is going to be a Fantastic Beasts land, which is so stupid. Isn't that just France? New York in the 20s? But anyway, one of the lands was, like, a Universal Monsters land. And, like, again, don't know if that's true, but maybe that could be the land I'm envisioning that I want, where it's, like, classic horror monsters in just, like, a kooky, fun, like, livable environment to, like, walk around in. It's Universal, so I doubt they'd do a dark ride, although they have been trying harder in recent years in some projects. But, you know, they probably just do some generic, like, roller coaster that is in the facade of a cool castle, but then inside it's not really like a cool castle. But, you know, potentially that could be really, really cool. And, like, who knows? It seems like in recent years they have been trying to put out Disney quality products and experiences. So, I don't know. Like, I'm rooting for that. I'm just in general, like, when someone announces a whole new themed theme park that's not just, like, a Six Flags or something, immediately excited. So, I'm rooting for it. I hope it gets built. So, anyway, this is an Italian article from 2008 about the Goosebumps ride. I see something from 2015 about the Slappy animatronic, but again, I think this is the one that just went to, like, a theme park convention, or I guess a trade fair is the word for it. Oh, that reminds me. I was gonna try, now I have such a busy November, I don't think that would be possible anyway. There's, like, some kind of industry, like, fair for theme park people, and it's like they show off new ride technology, animatronics and stuff. Like, all the legit theme parks and animatronic companies and stuff go there. And I was like, I would love to go to that. And, like, I don't know, do a video on it or something. But I think it happens in November. And I also don't know how to get invited. So, never mind. I don't know. I know that, like, podcasters go. I don't think it's that hard, but I think you kind of have to know the right people, and I just never do. So anyway, yeah, I'm not seeing any evidence that a Goosebumps ride is still happening. I'll click news. Yeah, absolutely nothing. So I think that was just a concept, unfortunately. I'd love to see that. And, like, but, you know, the movie just came out, like, 2 years ago would have been the time for it, and it didn't happen then, so I don't think we're going to see it, which is dumb. I mean, Goosebumps has more than proven its staying power with, like, 10-year-olds, so, and it has nostalgia from adults by now, so yeah, I don't know. I guess theme parks just, they don't have people like me making their decisions for them. But anyway, as I said earlier, I would love to have in my theme park land, my spooky land, what should I call it? I'll call it Spooky Land. I wanted to have a water ride too. I was talking to my sister when we were on our family trip to Disney World, and she was saying that, like, she just loves theme park rides that are like boats going through environments, not even like thrill rides, like slow boat rides, like Navi River Journey. They have, like, a Mexico Pavilion boat ride in Epcot. They have the Greenhouse Tour boat ride and the Frozen one. And she was like, I like theme park rides that are just a slow boat taking you past scenery. And she was like, I think that's because whenever I have a dream where I'm on a theme park ride that doesn't exist, it's usually a boat ride. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, me too. So after she said that, I was kind of, like, reassessing the fact that, like, boat rides are just really good. They kind of add that mystique to the theme park experience. So thrill-wise, I'm imagining something that's, like, about on par with Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, nothing crazy. It's not like a log flume ride. I just personally don't like getting splashed all that much. I'll do it because I like the animatronics on Splash Mountain, but it's kind of, like, stressful to have to get splashed with water, especially on a log flume. It always comes over the sides, so the part of you that gets wet is, like, your shoes, and it's like, that's horrible. Those aren't gonna dry out. I don't mind ones like Jurassic Park where it splashes, like, your shirt and your face, because that all dries off. But anyway, yeah, I'm picturing, like, a Pirates of the Caribbean type arrangement, like that level of drop where, like, you drop kind of fast and, like, it's a bit thrilling, but you're not here to get soaked. You're getting a pleasant mist. And I would throw in like more drops than Pirates of the Caribbean, like Pirates, because they just wanted the drops to get you down underground and put you under the railroad tracks. They put them at the beginning, and that's like weird because everyone knows that the rule of boat rides is your biggest drop is at the end of the ride. So, you know, move that around, add more drops, make it more fun. But yeah, I just love the idea of traveling on this river and looking at spooky things. And like maybe this could be through the woods next to the castle or something. Yeah, maybe this could explore like, okay, yeah, let's keep the greenhouse and the cornfield in the castle ride. And then, you know, because 3 tracks is fine. And then let's keep the forest for the boat ride. So you're going through these woods, and like maybe it's almost like a campground vibe, because I told you we're mixing like American spooky environments and those classic European aesthetics of spookiness. So you can travel through like this spooky kind of campground area, and then you can hear like a werewolf. You can see like lagoon monsters in one area. Just any kind of like we could add cryptids. We could have like a Mothman. That would be fun. And maybe we could even throw in like some aliens, you know, a clearing with some aliens, because why not? This actually reminds me, one of the best things that they do at Knott's Scary Farm, their Halloween overlay at Knott's Berry Farm, is as of like last year, or I think 2 years ago, they started doing this elaborate overlay of the log ride. And it's so good. Like the log ride most of the year is like the Calico Logging Company, and it's like the most typical log ride storyline you can imagine. It's like you're going up through a timber mill and you see cowboys and stuff like that. And the overlay is just like all of the scenes that already exist, but like crazy, like mechanical Halloween beasts. Like you travel this scene that's like a stagecoach, and it's still a stagecoach, but it's being overrun by giant spiders. It makes me so happy. I so badly wanted to get like video and pictures of this the last time I went, but like it's a log ride and you're getting splashed all the time, and I didn't want to drop my phone or get it wet, so you know, that's too bad. I'm sure someone else has taken a video of it though, so you can like look at it on YouTube. And then they have one section that's like aliens, and then you get to this like culmination scene that's like the hootenanny in the town, so you have like dancing cowboys and stuff, but they've replaced the normal like jug band, and it's like still a band, but now like the bassist is an alien. There's like a Mothman playing a washboard, and they've written like an original song. It's like the best thing ever. If that was a year-round ride, it would be one of my favorite rides, period. It's so good. So that said, it's just occurred to me that like one or both of these really needs to have an original song. I feel like the boat ride could be, I don't know, I'm torn. Which one should be more atmospheric and which one should be more like jovial? That's really tough. I would say maybe the boat ride gets a song, like a lyrical song, and then maybe the castle ride has like eerie atmospheric instrumentals, you know, like organ music and stuff, and then it's kind of that loop where like in different environments you hear it carried over in different instruments. Like you could have like a spooky theremin when you get outside or something. And then when you're in the basement, maybe you still hear the organ, but like the audio's been mixed so it sounds like it's muffled, like you're hearing it from the ballroom upstairs. That would be really sick. But anyway, yeah, maybe we can have some kind of swinging, like hootenanny, creepy song. Okay, I'm not gonna call it a hootenanny. It'll sound like I'm ripping off the Knott's Berry Farm ride. But you know, a fun, lyrical, jovial song for all the critters to be singing in, that can happen in the boat ride. I feel like boat rides traditionally are where you put your songs anyway, like Pirates of the Caribbean and It's a Small World and all that. Granted, Haunted Mansion, iconic song, and that one's not a boat ride, so it's not a perfect example, but you get the idea. I feel like for this ride also, like you wouldn't even need crazy complex animatronics. You could just have big things, you know? You could have like, for the basement and stuff, like big bugs. And if it's a big bug with a lot of legs, when you really think about it, like the pieces that need to move on that bug are maybe like 3 different parts. Like one leg near the back is kind of moving, one leg near the front is kind of moving at a different tempo, and then maybe the pinchers and the heads like looking around. Like we're not asking for elaborate Pirates of the Caribbean level animatronics. I feel like it could be made on like, I'm not gonna call it a modest budget because I already made it really big and crazy. I'm just trying to say though that I think so many like theme park companies, they felt like it was a game of one-upmanship. Like if you have animatronics, they have to be complex and insane. Like you look at Navi River Journey and they have their one incredibly complex animatronic and then just no other ones because they probably looked at the cost of the crazy one and were like, well, we can't afford more of those. And it's like, well, then don't build more of those. Build a Navi that's like mostly a static dummy and it just waves or something. And like the eyes are rear projected so they look more lifelike. Or like build the jungle cat thing, but obscure it with trees. You only have to build the front half of it and have like the tail move and the head goes side to side. And like you have these big creatures that are giving the impression of movement that are partially obscured. They don't all have to look like a real living beast. It's like, I feel like in some senses it can be like quantity over quality, or at least like, you know, quantity and then dress it up nicely. Like the quantity can also refer to like set dressing, plants, furniture, stuff for people to like to focus their attention on that's not just like a big empty room with one elaborate animatronic. And you do see that with Universal Studios also. I have no complaints about the Forbidden Journey ride. Like I feel like that's a good example of using animatronics sparingly. But for the most part, you see stuff like the King Kong ride at Universal Studios is like all screens, almost all screens, and then at the end, just a huge, like the biggest animatronic ever of King Kong. And it's like, that's really cool, but like, imagine if the rest of the ride was just like simpler animatronics. Like they have you pass through one room at the beginning that's like these bat creatures, and those are physical animatronics, and that's great. Like, I always try to go on that ride just because the few animatronics it has are really cool, but I wish it was like more of that. And you know, just rooms that look like fake jungle and have weird beasts in them. And that ride also has like animatronics in the line. Like the line is kind of better than the ride. There's like this scary like witch woman, like a medicine woman that's trying to warn you away from the island that you see in the queue. And that's an amazing animatronic. You pass through these tanks that have like animatronic worm things. I don't know. It's just like, I feel like people shy away from it now. Even Disney. It's like, you look at Star Wars Land and they've built like the Hondo animatronic that looks really good. They have Doc-Ondar in his shop and then just nothing. And it's like, build something. It doesn't have to be complex every time. Like if you populate it with a lot of B-level animatronics and like one A-level animatronic, people are going to be that much more impressed. It's going to feel more immersive. It's going to feel more cool. So anyway, I guess this is my roundabout way of saying that like, I want to outright ban screens from my theme park thing, which like, it sounds dumb. I don't actually think screens are bad. I think they can have their place in like the background. Like instead of a flat wall, you can have stuff moving around that gives it depth. Like I think a good example of that is when you look at the Fantasyland rides in Disneyland, they've started like plussing up some of the older ones by just adding like laser projection effects. You can look up a ride through of like Alice in Wonderland done within the last 2 years. And look at how like when you go through the flowers, they've like added blooming flower projections, and like the transitions have like little characters scurrying along through the hallway, and it's like it adds depth to the physical things that were already there. So that's something where like you're not losing something you already had in order to get a projection because it's cheaper. It's like the projections are used to enhance the stuff that they already built. But I feel like the projections cannot be your whole ride, because then I can just stay home and like put on a VR headset. It's not the same. That's not how the human brain works. Like the tech isn't there that it tricks us yet. It's just not. Yeah, now I'm kind of excited now that I remembered the Universal Monsters Land. I think that's kind of an indication that we might get like a spooky, creepy horror characters land. I'm all for it. I'm not that into like specifically the Universal Monsters, but surely if you're building them a land, you're gonna end up with like a European village with a castle and there's monsters in it, I would assume. And like maybe it'll have a fun themed restaurant and like kooky gift shops. Maybe you can get a big plush hat that's the head of Frankenstein. You know, like the upper half of his head is on your head. That would be really fun. I think it's just because I like hats that like as soon as I'm thinking of a theme park, my head goes to like, what novelty hats can they sell me? I will wear it immediately. So in my version of the theme park, there's a whole lot of novelty hats. For every creature, there's a novelty hat. And spoiler alert, the novelty hat is just, you know, upper lip up of their head set on top of your head in like a comically exaggerated plush form. Oh, that'd be so cute with like a Mothman hat with like the big eyes and like fuzzy head and feelers. I mean, because Mothman, his head is a moth's head, right? So picture a moth's head on top of your head. That would be such a nice winter hat too. Be all fuzzy and warm like a raccoon. Anyway, I feel like I've gone through this wonderful mind journey about my theme park ride. So I'm hoping that lived up to your expectations. How long have I been rambling? Let's see. Oh, like 40 minutes. Okay. Yeah, that's good. So anyway, I guess now's the time to go over the next videos I'm going to do. Oh, but firstly, I was thinking about Patreon because I was looking at my I was gonna say analytics, and I've said animatronics so many times in the last 40 minutes that I just said I was looking at my animatronics. That wasn't a Freudian slip. I don't have Buzzy in my house. I did not buy the stolen Buzzy, nor did I steal him myself. I don't have him in my possession. I was not looking at my animatronics because I don't have any animatronics. So I was looking at my analytics on YouTube, and like last month, I put out 2 videos. I put out the first part of my Star Wars Land video, and then I put out my D23 video that was just like a recap of everything that happened. I shot it in an evening. There was no writing ahead of time. And then I edited it within like, I don't remember, a couple days or something. And then we have my part 1 of my Star Wars Land video, which I put so much time into. I like researched it. I found all those clips. I wrote out all my thoughts. I rewrote it multiple times. Like it's structured like an essay, and it's like the first of this massive thing. It's a crazy long video. It was literal months in the making, and the D23 video out-earned the Star Wars Land Part 1 video by like 30%. So like that's why I like Patreon, because I feel like if I was just a YouTuber and it was all ad revenue, that would be so demoralizing to like put all this time into a video and then realize that you can just make like a lazy video, which like, you know, I think that one was like funny and I'm glad people watched it, but at the same time it's like, man, on YouTube, like as far as the ad revenue, since it's just how many eyeballs are on it, there's no accounting for like quality or effort, which like, yeah, that's just how it works. But anyway, that's just why I'm glad there's Patreon, because I'll look at that and just be like, oh, well, whatever. So anyway, that said, I think that my next video to come out in November, I'm probably going to try to do Star Wars Land Part 2 in November. And that's going to be a big video. So that's why I say like I think, because like if there is a movie that comes out in November that I want to talk about, or if I just start feeling like it's taking too long and I want to put out a quick video, I might end up doing something else first. I also was thinking about the Dog's Purpose thing, but since that's another like movie discussion video that means pulling clips, that would also be on the time consuming end. So I don't know, maybe I'll do like another quick and simple one to rush out before the Star Wars Land Part 2. But yeah, like, I mean, I was looking back at my notes yesterday and I was like, yeah, I mean, this is ready to shoot, basically. Well, not entirely. I have to go back to Star Wars Land and look at some of the new stuff they added, because some of the categories I talk about, they've added things. Like, they've added food, they've changed food. There's something that's not food that I have to go look at. I don't remember what it is. I wrote it on my whiteboard. But anyway, yeah, it's basically ready to go. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that'll probably be next, because I'm excited about it. And then part 3 is going to be after whenever the last ride opens. I feel like I wasn't clear enough about, like, I divided it into 3 parts. And part 2, like part 1 was before it opened, so it's like the land, what was there and stuff. And then part 2 is like the original trilogy. So it's like everything that's there. And I feel like people are going to see that and think that part 2 is the last part. And it's not. We have part 3. So part 2 is like everything there. It's all food, all the attractions, and what's the third? All the like merchandise and stuff. So I feel like everyone that's done videos about Star Wars Land, that's what they've covered. That's all people usually bother to cover. So that'll feel like they're done. That's everything in Star Wars land. But it's not, because part 3 is the sequel trilogy, and it's kind of the one I'm most excited about. I don't know, part 1 was really fun, but part 3 is the sequel trilogy, so it's like the future of Star Wars land. So I'm going to talk about, first of all, the next ride that opens, the Rise of the Resistance, because that is a future expansion that will happen after the park has opened. But then also going to talk about like ways of improvement I could see them doing. So I think one whole section is going to be the interactivity aspect. I have to look back at my notes because there's stuff that I already like wrote down, but then when I decided to break it into 3 parts, it all changed. One part of it would be like the interactivity, and then also I'm going to talk about like the canceled stuff, the stuff they were gonna put in and then didn't because of budget constraints. I talked about that a little bit with the droids, but there's so much. And then also like the future of Star Wars land, speculation, hints, announcements, all that good stuff. So yeah, that's gonna be the next 2 videos. So part 2, aiming for November, I think, if people don't mind another wait, because like I said, that would take a while. So anyway, yeah, thank you guys for your support, so I don't have to feel really sad when I look at YouTube and go like, oh, it actually makes more sense not to put effort into things. So thank you for enabling me to continue to put effort into things, because I enjoy the videos that like have clips and are written and like feel more legitimate. And yeah, thank you for your support, and thank you in general for watching. And if you watched all of this, thank you for watching this too. And I guess I'll see you next month. And also happy Halloween. I'm very excited for Halloween. Okay, take care everybody. Goodbye.